Do you want to know what a true dork I am? Do you see this? Do you see that right there? That is the number 1000. And this is my bathroom. And that is written on the mirror because I'm a huge dork and I'm trying to get 1,000 subscribers. And I figured if I write it on my mirror and look at it every day, I'm gonna make it happen. I hope this comes off with Windex. Yikes. Hi everybody, happy Friday. 3 cheers for my high school boyfriend's t-shirt. You know, today's Friday and I really wanted to do like a fun video, like something a little bit silly and light, but that's not gonna be the case today. Today I'm tackling actually a pretty big topic, which I'm gonna start today, but we're gonna come back to this quite a few times, I can promise. Today we're gonna be talking about exercise addiction. One of the most frequently asked questions I get is, do I have to stop exercise when I'm trying to recover from amenorrhea or overtraining? And we covered this in the last video of whether or not we think that's necessary. But we have to ask ourselves what the reason for that question is. Like, what is the reason behind the fact that none of us are willing to give up on exercise, even though we know that it's the right thing for us? I had to ask myself this question, way back when I started this process. Somehow the idea of eating more and nourishing my body felt really good to me. Conceptually, I really felt that every time I ate something that was healthy, every time I ate something that was good for me, that I was somehow fortifying myself. But I was unwilling to give up exercise because, or at least at the beginning, until I had to. We have to ask ourselves the difficult question of, am I addicted to exercise? Big disclaimer here. I am not saying that every person who suffers from overtraining got there by being exercise addicted, and I am certainly not saying that every woman who suffers from amenorrhea got there because she is exercise addicted. Make that known. All I'm doing here is exploring the aspects of exercise addiction, which were incredibly helpful to me at the beginning of this process. They're incredibly helpful to me now because it helps me understand my motivations potentially and whether or not it's an issue that I have to keep an eye on. What is exercise addiction and how is it different from just being an athlete, someone who's really committed to their training? That's a really good question and one I wanted to figure out. I read through a bunch of studies that I'm going to share with you and I'm going to, of course, link them all below. But at the beginning of the study of exercise addiction, the people who were studying this actually found that it was quite difficult initially to understand whether or not the studies were showing that someone was actually just really committed to their sport or if they were veering into the territory of addiction. When they started to put the framework that we associate with substance abuse, let's say alcohol or drug addiction, and applied it to the concept of exercise, they found that using the substance abuse addiction framework was actually much more beneficial in understanding the behaviors associated with exercise addiction. There's 2 different types of exercise addiction. This is according to research that was published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health. So first there's primary exercise addiction, in which the act of the physical activity is the justification. And then there is the second type of exercise addiction, in which the exercise is a means to justify an eating disorder and or control body size and weight. So again, I asked the question, how does this masquerade or how might we see this in our everyday lives? You definitely have something called anorexia athletica, which let's just get that out of the way right now. That is the person who legitimately counts calories of what they ate in a day and then will go out and exercise what they believe is the amount of calories that will somehow erase what they just ate. I know that might seem like the most overt or most extreme type of behavior, and you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't do that. But there's some other types of behaviors that are associated with exercise addiction that sound a little familiar to me, for one. Like, I used to say things like, oh no, I just can't sit still, I have to keep moving. So if I miss a day of running, it's really gonna make me antsy. I didn't personally have this problem, but I did often run with a few people that did seem to be out there running to justify, let's say, a big dinner they ate the night before, or perhaps justify calories that they were planning on eating later that day. This is like your friend who wants to eat a donut, but she won't eat one because she hasn't run her 10 miles yet that day. The idea of using the run to justify the donut craving is something that we see a lot of. If you have heard those things or if you yourself have said those things, that does not mean you're addicted to exercise at all. That's not the idea. It's just that when you connect those little things that you might say to yourself or to others to actual behaviors that are consistent with an addiction, that's when the wheels start to turn. But nothing I've really described just yet points to addiction. So what is the difference? Again, I go back to that framework of substance abuse that when it's applied to exercise can help to reveal what creates an addiction. When the researchers tried to understand what was commitment versus addiction, they found that the most compelling evidence of true addiction came when the exercise was removed. So when the exercise was actually removed from the athlete's daily life, they were studied at that point, and that's when we really started to see signs of addiction. If you or someone you love has struggled with substance abuse, you probably might recognize most of these components. I'm going to use running as the example just to make it easy to talk about this for the rest of the examples. But please know this applies to absolutely any sport or exercise there is. Okay, so the first one is salience. Does your sport, does running become the most important thing in your life? Are you eating, sleeping, and breathing running? Is it the only thing you think about? And when you're not running, are you thinking about running? Does it dominate your thinking, feelings, and behaviors? The second one is mood modification. Do you need to go out for a run because it helps you cope with everyday life? Using your exercise as a coping mechanism is what we're talking about right here. Tolerance. This one's super interesting. Okay, so do you need to do more of your sport to get the same happy high feeling? Like, do you need to add mileage every week? Do you need to add more minutes in the gym? Do you need to be out on your bike just an extra hour more? Withdrawal. So when you stop the exercise, do you feel like crap? Do you have physical and mental side effects from stopping? I can't tell you how many times I've heard runners say that when they stop running is when everything hurts. Again, I'm not saying that means you're exercise addicted. I'm just saying that these are factors to think about. The next factor is conflict. So, does your exercise create a conflict with you and the people around you? Honey, I need to go for a 10-mile run tomorrow morning. I thought we were gonna have breakfast together. Sound familiar? Does your sport create a conflict between you, your job, your social life? Do you cut out work early to get that run in? Find yourself coming into work late because you had to get that extra bike ride in? Do you even have hobbies if it's not running at this point? Foam rolling doesn't count, by the way. And probably most importantly, does running create a conflict between you and yourself? Are you fighting yourself about it? Believe me, this is one I really had to think about. And of course, the final factor is relapse. When it gets too hot in the kitchen, do you go back to your old habits? Every time you tell yourself you're gonna reduce mileage or you're gonna take a couple days off, do you blow it off just to keep going? I did this a whole bunch of times. Why? Because I told myself it wasn't serious enough. We have to ask ourselves why this happens. Okay, first off, we have to talk about the fact that exercise does tend to reduce people's anxiety about their body weight and body shape. Obviously, exercise is a very effective way to stay in shape and also keep your body weight in control. The second reason why this happens is because the endorphin rush will definitely help quell feelings of anxiety or depression. Running feels good. It just does. In your brain, and you know it. And it's not just running, by the way. Again, this is any sport. There's an intrinsic reward connected to your physical activity. So if you're a bodybuilder, you're focusing on preparation for a show. If you are a runner, you are training for a race probably. If you are a triathlete, my God, how do you even have time to watch this video right now? All of these goals make it compelling to continue. Aside from this, we are inundated with images from the media that absolutely drive exercise addiction. If you stop and look at some of the ads that you see around you that encourage not only addictive behaviors about sports, especially running and triathlon, but also ones that foster and encourage disordered eating patterns around those sports, you will be blown away. I have a few that I'm actually going to drop in this video. I just want you to take a look. How about this one? If running is difficult, run more. There you go. Just ignore anything that is feeling bad and keep pushing. Oh, hey, mommy. Obsessed is just a word the lazy use to describe the dedicated. Well, isn't that nice? So clever. And here's a handy dandy infographic that we can use for us to absolutely engage in those anorexia athletica behaviors. Discipline is doing what needs to be done even if you don't want to do it. Wow, that's really profound. Single? Taken? I'm just triathlon training. Encouraging isolationism. I love it. Aside from those beautiful messages from the media, there's societal pressures, there's genetic factors, there's the fact that if you have suffered with another addiction in the past, you're more likely to suffer from an addiction in the future. I want to be clear that this is not meant to be a comprehensive study of exercise addiction. Just pointing out a few key factors that we're going to continue to explore as the weeks go on. I'm going to leave you with one thing. Psychologist Mark Griffiths actually has this thing called the Exercise Addiction Inventory. It's a 6-item questionnaire that can help folks figure out if they're headed down the road of exercise addiction. It's on a 5-point scale, and you say, you know, I very much agree or I very much disagree, and there's all the points in the middle. Just going to leave you with the 6 questions here. Well, I'm sorry to drop this bomb on a Friday, but we can't get to our goals of recovery if we don't know where we're coming from. As always, I'm no expert. I'm learning all this stuff as I go. I just want to share with you the stuff that I'm finding out is really contributing to me understanding my behaviors and getting me back on the road to health. Just a quick reminder, you can follow me on Instagram at acaseofthejills. You can help me keep A Case of the Jills going by donating on the website, acaseofthejills.com. Please subscribe to this channel. There will be a button right over here that you can click and help me get to my goal of 1,000 subscribers by the end of August. Thank you so much to all of you who have chosen to share your story with me through your emails and beautiful messages. I'll be getting back to everyone ASAP. I hope you have an awesome weekend, and I'll see you soon.